Welcome to the Work Awesome podcast. This is episode 5, Building a Personal Brand. In this episode, we talked a lot about different tactics and techniques that you can take advantage of while trying to build your personal brand. A lot of it has to do with building your personal brand online because that's just where we are today. A lot of our brand in the professional world can be seen on LinkedIn, and you can make a lot of really valuable connections on that platform. There are other platforms like Glassdoor or Indeed where you can have a personal brand, but it doesn't go as in-depth as it does on LinkedIn. So a lot of this conversation does focus around LinkedIn. There are a lot of great tips and techniques that I talk about with two of our communications experts, our director of communications, Tara, one of our senior communications and multimedia specialists, Christine, and of course, Sarah, our talent resource manager, bringing in that recruiting aspect of the podcast. I want to say thank you guys for watching this podcast. If you're not following the Work Awesome podcast on social media, I highly suggest doing that right now. You can follow that page on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. On Instagram this week, we'll be giving away a pair of AirPods. So definitely, if you aren't following that page, that's the one to follow right now. Today's Monday and the podcast will be posted later today. We'll do the drawing for the winner at the end of the week. There are instructions on how to enter the giveaway on Instagram, probably while you're listening or watching this video right now. Jump over there, give it a follow, and enter to win a pair of AirPods. Again, thank you guys so much for your support thus far. I really look forward to releasing these next 4 episodes because it is kind of like in my wheelhouse. I do a lot of this type of work already, so it made it very easy for me to talk about this and talk with others about all of these topics that we have coming up. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side. Welcome to the Work Awesome podcast. This is the 5th episode, and today we're talking about building your personal brand. This is actually one of a few episodes that we have talking about personal brand. So today we have myself, Ian, Tara, Christine, and Sarah on. Tara is Director of Communications for AVN. Christine is one of our Senior Communications and Multimedia Specialists. And Sarah is, of course, our Talent Resource Manager for the company. In this episode, like I said, we're talking about personal brand. I'm going to read this description, so it's going to sound really scripted, but that's okay. In a world where information is a few keystrokes away, your online presence is extremely important. This episode will look at the best ways to build your personal brand, specifically on personal websites like LinkedIn and Glassdoor. And I was supposed to say professional, not personal websites. So let's start with the icebreaker as normal. So how do you stay productive and motivated while working virtually? And whoever wants to answer can jump in and answer first.
I see you shaking your head, Christine. You have something you want to say.
I guess, well, it's something that I've done even when we were in the office, but I have to have music at all times. So, in fact, it's right here, my remote, and my husband growls at me because he's like, wait, where's the remote? But I turn on the music in the morning and it's in the background. And then I think being at home, I take more breaks than I used to, just little short breaks, take the dogs out, unload some dishes or whatever. And it just gives me that break so that I'm not standing in or sitting in one spot at the same time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I know that when we used to sit near each other in the office, we would always talk about which radio station we were listening to and what's like that really good one to keep you going and keep you pumped. There are certain stations that I always listen to. Being a child of the 80s and 90s, of course, 80s and 90s pop tend to help get me motivated. Sometimes Ian and I listen to old school rap, so that's always fun too. But the music thing helps. I also love lists. Lists are my thing. So jotting down as many things as I can as possible to make sure I'm keeping myself on track, because with so many meetings back to back virtual meetings, it tends to take over your day faster than you want it to sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's been my go-to as well, Tara, is just making those lists and going, hey, I've got to get these things done. But also knowing that I need to get up every couple hours and stretch, because otherwise I think my biggest struggle is trying to keep track of time, because you're sitting down and I don't have to necessarily get up to do something specific at the end of the day. So keeping track of time and not stretching my day past what
that's a hard one. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
It really is.
But trying to check those things off the list and making sure that, it feels good when you're checking off that list. So
I may or may not have heard that you sent a very early morning email the other day, Sarah. So
I did.
It's hard to set those boundaries when you always have your home and your work blended like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
a big fan of
definitely.
music as well. One of the first things I do at home is turn on some lo-fi beats on Spotify or Apple Music, which it's no words or anything. It's just nice background music. I'm here by myself, so it makes it seem like I'm not here by myself. I definitely need other people around me to get some stuff done. So cool. So let's jump into the discussion for today.
Sure.
So before all these episodes, I send out a few articles. Something I found in one of them, and actually I'll probably link this one in the description because I thought it was really good and really well written. But it was on Medium. It was titled "The Complete Guide to Building a Personal Brand in 2020." It was kind of lengthy, but it really was the complete guide. One of the paragraphs in there says your personal brand is the image you put forth. It's what you stand for, your values, what you're all about, the core of who you are as a person. Your personal brand is your secret sauce, the thing that sets you apart from everyone else. It's what makes you unique. So what do you guys think about that? I mean, I think that pretty much sums it up it's a lot of sentences, but they're very short sentences. Pretty much one paragraph sums up what a personal brand is.
Yeah, and it's funny because I looked at those articles as well, and what makes you unique, and what do you want to put forward? That's a hard one to kind of like. It used to be that you could do whatever you want on the internet. It didn't really. It wasn't really necessarily connected to your job, or even before that in your personal life. It wasn't quite the same. But now any social presence you have is telling your story with everything you do, how you're interacting, what you're saying, the things you're liking. I think that the way that LinkedIn in particular is focused, you get to see how people are interacting. So as I'm going through and I'm clicking and I'm liking, oh yeah, I like that. And I'm following that and I like that. Other people are seeing that too. And so that says a lot about me, not just in what I'm saying, but how I'm following and what I'm using.
Yeah. And LinkedIn is interesting because you can actually track exactly what a person likes. Like if you click on their activity, you see what they're liking, what they're commenting on. So you get a really good sense in what kind of stuff they're looking at and kind of things that they're interested in.
Yeah.
It was interesting, actually, when I read through some of those articles, that it reminded me of a friend that I've recently started following on social media, and she manages kind of her own, I guess it's a kind of online coffee company. And it's interesting, she has definitely built herself a brand. I instantly thought of that because every time she posts something, especially on Facebook, I haven't really followed a lot of her other social medias, but definitely on Facebook, she always has a picture of a mug that is, it's her signature. So whether it is just a personal post that she makes or it's something about her business, which kind of, are one and the same, but she always has a mug or some sort of glass or, something. So that really, it kind of drove home the idea of, oh yeah, what you are putting out there says a lot about yourself, whether you are trying to start a new career or changing careers or just getting going or even just, not. One of the things that is you have a brand whether you know it or not, and it depends on what you do and how much you further that brand.
Mm-hmm. So I guess, Sarah, for you, if somebody has this like prominent personal brand and they apply to Avian and they're like, they are the blank of whatever they're doing, the expert in blank. Does that stand out to you? Like, are you going to be like, oh yeah, I know that person. I know they're associated with doing this type of stuff.
So I think if I had advanced knowledge of them, or sometimes I'll have candidates after they've applied, maybe they'll reach out to me on LinkedIn, then I would see it. But I do try to look at the candidates separately in terms of what their skills are and how they pertain to that specific job. So I don't, unless it was maybe contradictory, it was, they were saying one thing here and one thing here, and it was very evident that there was something that wasn't matching up. I don't think that I would probably, decide from that if they were a qualified candidate or not, because we really do have to try to make sure that we're really looking at, the resume and the qualifications that person has put forward. However, that being said, if it's someone, it depends on the position and the type of industry that you're looking at as well. If it's, if we have someone who we're looking at to help with our branding, then that would be maybe a totally different story. You look at a resume that really speaks to that person's qualifications in terms of what they do for graphics, or, maybe they've made a name for themselves somewhere else. So I think it depends on the industry, and it depends on the position.
Yeah.
I think that what's interesting about LinkedIn and what I've found and let me get my words right. As it's continuing to evolve, it's really interesting because you've got, your old school resume that is still very applicable in the structure of all of that. But now you've got LinkedIn and Glassdoor and Indeed, where you can load your resume to these sites, and you can really benefit from taking all of those descriptors of what is your best aptitude and what do you care about the most, how can you interact as a valuable team member, and really building those into your headline on LinkedIn, and really making sure that as you're going through and you're choosing the organizations and the people that you want to follow and keep track of, that brand comes out along the way. Because if you say you're a team player, but your actions are not necessarily mirroring that, it doesn't, I don't know, it just feels icky.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about finding your passion in a future episode of the podcast. But I think as this trend of like really finding what you're passionate about and doing that for a living, as that becomes bigger and more prominent, people are going to, their personal brands and their work life are going to combine super easily because they're doing what they want to do. For me, I like video stuff, so this is always fun for me to do.
What organizations or what people you choose to follow on, say, LinkedIn? Because the things that you're naturally interested in, you see and you start to follow these people and the organizations. Or even when you first set up the profile and it asks you all these questions, these qualifying categories of what are your interests. If you tend to kind of head toward one direction, well, then maybe that's a good place to kind of start for creating your own personal brand, because maybe that's something that you value a lot. I tend to follow quite a few people that are motivational speakers, people that have a strong background or emphasis on servant leadership, or how to continue to stay positive and encouraging. And those are the things that I've found are pieces that I want to incorporate into my own brand, because I get a lot from that from other people. And I would love to pass that along if I can as well. So I think that's a good place to start, to see who motivates you, and why do you think they're doing a good job, and how does that relate to what you're doing?
No, I was just saying, I think you need to be genuine. This is very genuine right now.
And that's a great golden rule, though.
Mm-hmm.
Be who you are.
Absolutely. Because I think it'll come across, if you are brought in for an interview and you're looking for a position, I think that is what people are looking for, is, the genuine article. Is this person, is this person a good fit? And I wonder how many people, look at the other people that are following some of those motivational speakers and that kind of thing, and what organizations they're part of when they're doing their job searching too. If they're looking for a job, then, where do how many employees from this company are following this, or are part of this organization, and that can really speak to the organization and what their personality as an organization is as well. What kind of is this organization supporting veterans? Organization really providing that kind of support. Those types of things I can speak. So I think it can go both ways with the personal branding as well as what the employees or the company is kind of supporting as well.
Yeah, and along those same lines, it's at the beginning of that article I referenced earlier, it talked about Nike and how their original branding wasn't actually about sports at all. It was about what they believe
in. Their values,
yeah. Exactly. And when your personal values match up with your company values, it's a perfect match.
Yes. And if you're part of an organization and you're noticing that 20 people from Avian are supporting that organization as well, then it looks like maybe the personal brands are matching up, and it might be a good fit for you as an organization or as a next step for a career.
Yeah,
agreed.
The other thought I have was like a tech savvy hiring manager might look at somebody's LinkedIn profile before going into an interview, and if you have interests that are similar to the hiring manager's interest, it's a great icebreaker. So that they can kind of see what they have in common with you and bring that up in conversation. So Tony Robbins always comes to mind because a lot of people follow him. If you're following Tony Robbins on LinkedIn and the hiring manager is also following Tony Robbins, you probably could have hour-long conversations about everything that he says. What next? So defining your audience, this is kind of dives a little bit deeper into personal branding. So knowing exactly who to talk to online, because a lot of this stuff is online now. Personal branding, it existed before the internet, but now that everything's online and it's
did anything exist before the internet?
I did.
Paper.
Now that everything's on the internet, it just, you're talking to potentially thousands, if not millions of people at one time. So really knowing who to talk to is important. So any tips on figuring out who your audience actually is? And I did make this podcast a little communications heavy because I knew this topic was going to come up with some marketing research. So any tips on defining your audience?
Well, again, it's all in what you're trying to achieve. So there are multiple different reasons why people use LinkedIn. I'm not currently in the job market, but so my profile looks and may feel very differently than someone that is actively seeking a job and wants to really showcase what they have versus I am working on continuing to establish my role, my presence. I want to be more active in the community. I want to. So the audience that I'm kind of leaning toward now is okay. So what are some of my peers doing? What are some of my mentors that are a few steps ahead of me in their career progression? What are they doing? And what is really valuable in those middle and upper management type positions? So I think really understanding what you're trying to achieve. Are you looking for a new job, or are you just looking to make connections that are going to eventually get you there?
Yeah, and I think along those lines, so if you're in the career field, you're out there looking, you're going to want to know kind of what your audience is. So if you are in, say, the medical field, you're going to want to target people on LinkedIn and social media, or on Instagram, whatever your different platforms. You're going to want to target and reach out to people in that field. So rather than just put a blast out to everybody, so I think that's important too, is to, like Tara said, based on what you're looking for and what you're trying to accomplish, then you can focus a little bit more on who is going to give you the best return on your investment. So you look at businesses that always say that, all right, how are you going to get the best return too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and personal brand has a lot to do with kind of defining your expertise too. So before we were even like earlier today, I was trying to figure out the best way to like describe this. And I think the best way to describe it is like college professors. If you're a college professor, but you've never been published, you're probably not considered an expert in whatever you do. But if you are a college professor who has been published multiple times, has written countless articles and documents on a topic, you're seen in your community as an expert. Same with the online presence. If you're online, but you're not posting anything, you're not contributing to conversations that fall within your expertise, no one knows pretty much that you're existing. So if you're the one that's kind of at the forefront and putting up all the information and sharing your thoughts about a topic, your expertise and your famedom goes up a little bit, so that people you can build that following and people start seeing you as an expert.
It's a great way. Deciding to follow, in my opinion, also is a great way to see some resources that are out there that maybe you don't know about. For example, I love to follow other people in the HR industry because sometimes they have, they'll share an article or, like something that I'm like, wow, I didn't know that resource was out there. What a great resource. This is a great opportunity for me to learn something new and see how other people in my field are coping with maybe virtual interviews or things like that. So it's really a great way to connect with people. And I think if you're looking for a job and you're, connecting with those different companies that you've researched and you find are, interesting to you or you'd like to learn more about, that's a great way for you to really see what they're posting, how they're evolving as a company, what their next steps are, what's important to them. So it's a good way for you to learn too.
Definitely. And there's even like at Avian, we don't do this too much, but there are companies that will post articles, expertise articles, attributed to you so that you within that company show that you're the expert in whatever. Kind of similar to what we're doing now with Work Awesome, showing that Sarah and Megan and all of our hiring managers are experts in what they do. It just builds that personal brand every post that we make.
And that builds credibility. So like you said before, if you're invisible, if you're not interacting in a certain way, and your profile is just there and you're just kind of lurking. I hear a lot of people kind of justify I just look at things and, everyone's probably going there. But if you're trying to build a brand for yourself, you have to take it a step further. And if you want to continue to stand out, there are certain interactions and engagements that you need to have. But like you just said, personal content that shows your expertise in something, right on. Like that's definitely something that catches my eye.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've gone for about 30 minutes, and I know we could probably talk about personal brand a lot more, but the following episodes in the next couple of weeks we're actually going to be deep diving into a lot of these different topics. Next week, we're going to be talking about authenticity. So it's called Be You, Authenticity is Key, which is, again, part of personal branding. So we'll dive into that. Besides that, I want to thank you guys for joining me today. It has definitely been fun, and I think there's a lot of great stuff that we could do with personal branding on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, all of these professional websites to really help you stand out amongst the crowd. So thank you guys, and I will see you guys next time.
Thanks, Ian. Bye, guys.
Bye.
So what do you guys think? This episode had a lot of great tips about building a personal brand. In the future episodes, we're going to be talking more in depth about LinkedIn as a whole, as well as deep diving into your LinkedIn profile. We're also going to be talking about authenticity and what it means to be authentic online in this new digital world that we're living in, and a few other topics that are not only going to help you build your personal brand, but also build your professional brand. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. The Work Awesome podcast is brought to you by Avian. Avian is a 49% employee-owned company founded by retired U.S. Navy test pilots who believe passion and talent are the right traits to get the job done. Avian operates in a culture that thrives on innovation, creativity, and the entrepreneurial spirit. Instead of offering services through mere business transactions, Avian is redefining the government services industry by creating meaningful experiences and connecting talented people with important work. The passion that Avian's employees have for its work builds better partnerships for the future, and Avian's unique talents create real solutions. At Avian, we move fast, take risks, and don't settle for the status quo. To learn more, visit Avian's website at avian.com. That's AVIAN.com.